Hi everyone, it's Denise from Dobby Books. Welcome back. It's been a few days. So in the last video, I was going over my reads for August. So first, let me tell you what I managed to finish from that stack. The first one was the second book in the His Dark Materials trilogy, The Subtle Knife. I finished that. I've really been plowing through these books at a good pace, I'm happy to say. So now I am working my way through book 3, the final one in the trilogy, The Amber Spyglass. Now this one is definitely thicker than book 2. This is book 2, this is book 3. So I'll just have to keep working on this. This was great. See, what I did the first time when I was reading through this, and I was reading through it for my capstone, I had read the first book. I didn't have the luxury of the time that I would have really have liked to dedicate to it. So I read it, but a little faster than I would. I missed some things. I noticed what those things were on the second read because I just took my time. For the other two books, because those two books were not required for my class, but because they were part of my capstone, I needed to get the whole story on the first trilogy. I listened to an audiobook version, which was sort of it had Philip Pullman as the narrator, and then the characters in the series were other voices, and they were acting out their part. They were narrating their part in the book. So it did follow the book, but it had the various voices of the different characters, and that was interesting. But again, I'm doing this while I'm on my way to school and on my way back home from school, and in the meantime, I'm driving. So it wasn't the ideal setting. So being able to sit down and just read through this at a pace that worked best for me because I really wanted to absorb it was a wonderful luxury. So I am getting so much more out of the series now, more clarity on what this theme is throughout the series. Um, and now it's going to finish off with the Amber Spyglass. And gosh, it could be so a little involved, but basically in this world that Philip Pullman has created, the magisterium has structured itself around a belief system that is actually controlling of people. It puts fear in them if they disobey, that they'll be condemning their own souls if they don't do as the magisterium tells them. So this is the way to save your soul. You do this and you will save your soul. And there are, but beyond that, the magisterium is also very powerful in Lyra's world. And with that power, with that money, they censor things. They censor science and they censor literature. So those tentacles really spread out pretty far. And as you read through the book, you're learning that the magisterium is aware of the parallel worlds that exist. And they've been going into those parallel worlds and trying to control things as best they can. So as Lyra is working her way through these different worlds, and now with her companion Will, they're encountering these very scary efforts by the magisterium to stop them, because the magisterium has learned that Lyra is a very significant piece of the history of that world in that particular time period. If they can stop Lyra, they can preserve their power. And that's what the theme is throughout the book. It's this good versus evil. The magisterium, of course, is depicted as evil, and Lyra and some of the other humans and witches and angels and all these other characters, including animals who are on Lyra's side, are the good. And they don't necessarily understand completely what it is they're doing. But they've been able to grasp that what they're doing is very important to their freedom, and therefore the freedom of others in addition to that. So you have to remember, we're dealing with children who are around between the ages of 10 and 12. So they're understanding as much as they can. You will grasp as you read through it more adult concepts that you'll catch, which is what I'm catching on here. So really an excellent series, and something that just for me, sure, you can have a middle school kid read it, but they'll miss all those big chunks, and that's okay. I think what they're going to do is they're going to focus on Lyra and Will, and that's what books do for us. And when they go and they read it 10 years later, wow, they're going to see stuff they didn't see before. And then another 10 years later, wow, they're going to see more that they didn't see before. So it's a great series because of that, because the themes are pretty deep. And I'm seeing more of them now that I'm going through my second read. I think it's cool. I can't wait to get to the Book of Dust. So at this point, my nose is itching and I have to apologize. At this point, it looks like I'm going to be able to finish this book by the end of August. We have a couple of weeks to go. Today is what? Thursday the 14th. I'll be able to finish this, I would say, in a couple of weeks. And then I'll be able to finally start the next trilogy, which is the Book of Dust trilogy. And that will be September. So if I can finish the first Book of Dust in the first 2 weeks of September, the second Book of Dust in the last 2 weeks of September, then I think I'll just make it for the release of book 3, the final book in that second trilogy, and I'll be able to read that. So let's see. It's looking good so far, and I'm pretty happy about that. And the next book that I finished was Famous Men of the Middle Ages, and this was an easier read, of course, because this is designed for a younger audience, and it's beautiful illustrations throughout. Really, just wonderful artwork and illustrations throughout. And I read about all kinds of people from Northern Europe and Southern Europe and Western and even Eastern Europe, and also the continent of Asia. I apologize for my itchy nose. I'm not sure why that's happening. It was good. It was great. So I know there's another book in that series. I'll cover that. That'll probably be part of my September reads. But the 2 books that I finished in the last week or so are these 2 right here. So let's see what I have left. So we have book 3 in here. I have read a little ways through the Crash Course series on Islam, on the history of Islam. Has been very interesting so far. Medina was the other city I kept missing. Mecca and Medina are significant cities in Islamic history. I have not yet started the Quran. I was focusing on my earlier 2 books. I will be starting Procopius today, continuing the history of Islam today, which leaves me these 2 books. So these 2 would go together, right? The Quran and then the history of Islam. These 2 could go together. And then Procopius. So that can work well. And I'm still working my way through Silent Flame. So I'm making steady progress. I'm doing better than I had anticipated. I want to make sure that I covered it all. The one that I was reading through at the time is this one. The Anatomy of Anxiety. It's a good book. It's very informative. I would still recommend it. But I think my expectations were a little off because I was kind of disappointed. I thought when she was getting into the false anxiety part of the true anxiety part, that there'd be some sort of new information for me that I could use and apply to my own life. And there really wasn't. She talked about concepts of letting go. Okay. Dealing with grief. I've done that. And I think that that was something that, because I had the 12 steps in my past experience, that I was able to work my way through the grief. So I really didn't see that as something that really pertained to me right now. And then she talked about your true path, which I have to say that did say something to me, because when your body tells, and she always tells us, when we're anxious people, listen to your body. If you're feeling tension, if you're feeling like this, right? Pay attention. Why are you feeling that? Break it down. This is something we constantly need to remind ourselves to do, especially as anxious people, because we get so caught up in the feeling of the anxiety that we can't think straight. Our head is so cluttered. And she talks about finding your true path. If you're attempting to do something, pursuing something, about to do something, but you're feeling that anxiety in you, I call it that frizzy feeling inside. Listen to that, because that's your body telling you, maybe this isn't the way you should go. And whenever you do have those feelings, and I have to say, it happens when you're not paying attention. So it's hard to pay attention. That's a conflict. It happens when you're not really paying attention, that you're feeling at ease. You're feeling like you're just flowing along and this is great. You're feeling happy. You're feeling relaxed. You're truly enjoying the moment. Stop yourself when you can and say, where am I? What am I doing? So that you're aware of what is making you happy, what you're connecting with. And that, I think, of everything that I read in this book, that was what I took away from this book. So, and that's still good. And of course, because I'm thinking through of this other graduate program I was going to go into, there's been a lot of that anxiety. Part of it has been the cost, and I spoke to a couple of people who were, sort of outside this situation. Some neutral voices I wanted to hear. What do you think? Here's the pros, here's the cons. What do you think? And the person I spoke with more recently, they gave me some feedback, and I thought, well, okay, now I'm feeling better and I'll be able to make this decision. But it never lasts. So that's why I'm inclined to think I'm probably not going to be doing this. I'll probably have to continue my year off and working a lot to get some things out of the way. And so that's why I think I may be putting off that graduate degree, at least for this year. And we'll see what the next year brings, right? Sometimes when a door closes, well, I believe all the time one door closes, there are two more that open in front of you. And you'll get to those doors as long as you keep moving forward. So that's where I'm at on that one. And what else did she talk about? Connection, finding your people. That's so important. So other than that, it was good for me, but I expected more and I didn't get what I expected. But other than that, I would recommend this book. It's very good. And the author, Dr. Ellen Vora, is very knowledgeable, very skilled, and I think she has a lot to offer. So there's that. And finally, this book here, The Civilization of the Middle Ages by Norman F. Cantor. This was the library book version that I was perusing before I made the final decision. I liked it. I ordered a good copy on eBay. I didn't realize I ordered a hardbound copy, but it's awesome. This is the hardbound copy I ordered. Look at those pages. Look at those pages. They're not even yellow. Look at this one. The library book. Look at the comparison. Isn't that fantastic? I got a book that looks new. Hard copy edition. Fantastic. And I don't even remember how much I paid for it. 20 bucks, I think, or less than 20 bucks. Really, I got an awesome price for this book. I'm very happy. So this is going to be my spine that I'm working my way as I work my way through medieval history. And that is it, people. That's everything for the week. So thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. I love you all. Take care and be safe. Bye-bye.